What is going on, guys? Today I'll be doing my AFL 2024 ladder predictions plus awards. So yeah, let's jump straight into it. In 18th place, I have West Coast. Now, I feel this is a pretty obvious one, and lots of people would be having West Coast finishing last as well this season. They just don't look anywhere near as good as anyone else in the competition, and they were so poor last year that they simply have to be in 18th this year. You take a look at their list, and it's just so inexperienced and has a lot more injuries. I mean, they've had a lot more injuries in their previous two seasons than this year, but they still have quite a few injuries this season. I think it's quite obvious to most people that West Coast will be finishing. Yeah, and also, Harley Reid has been overhyped quite a bit, and I just don't see West Coast improving this season. 18th this season. Well, they should, that's for sure. In 17th place, I have North Melbourne. Now, I really wanted to put them higher. I really wanted to, but they're still not great, aren't they? But I have them improving quite a bit this year. I actually really rate their midfield and all their young talents. And Wardlaw, Sheasel, all their young kids, McKercher, Dersma, they're all going to have pretty good first seasons, you'd think, and Nick Larkey's going to be up there in the Coleman again. My problem for me is the defence for North Melbourne. I mean, Toby Pink and Aidan Core as your fullback and centre half back is not great, is it? And it's going to be interesting to see how they go for the first half, or at least most of the season with them. And I still think they'll be quite good this year, but if you saw my bold call video, that I think their defence will be quite poor. Now, in 16th position, I've got Richmond. Will be quite an unpopular pick, that's for sure. I've had them lower, but 16th is what I've settled on. I just don't see them being any good this year, and for a while they're in their rebuilding phase. New coach and Adam Yees and Uze, or however you want to say it, and their forward line's quite undeveloped and hasn't played a lot of games together. Yet it did perform quite well in their practice games. Their first practice game against Melbourne, not so much in their second practice game against Collingwood though. The midfield as well doesn't quite look as good as it used to be. They're going to need big seasons again from Taranto and Hopper and Prestia. And the defence as well is even starting to fall off. Nankervis is injured as well, which is a big blow. Having their captain out for, I believe, maybe even the first month of the season. And just their list in general. I can't even name probably half of Richmond's list. So that's probably why I've got them in 16th position this season. In 15th, I have Fremantle. I have them being worse than last year. I personally don't see them improving. I think JR was the wrong coach for them. Their game plan, last year it was just weak and slow type play. And if they have that again this year, they'll be quite poor. They weren't great in their practice matches. I just don't see too many highs coming this season for Freo. I think they'll be a decent team at home, but really, really struggle away like we saw last year as well. So, consistency as well away from home is something that I don't see Freo having this year. I still think Hayden Young and Sarong and Brayshaw are going to be electrifyingly good this year. And even Nat Fyfe's being talked up to be having one of the best pre-seasons in his career, which is pretty crazy stuff. But again, losing Schultz, Henry, and the season before, Logan Lobb, just huge blows to their list in general, Freo. So that's why I have them in 15th. And that's my bottom four rounded off. The next 14 teams are all teams that I can even see making the finals. It's going to be quite a difficult year. There's going to be lots and lots of teams, up there competing for the flag this year. And the next 14 teams are quite difficult. In 14th, I put Essendon. Now, Essendon's new recruits, everyone's talked them up, but I still don't think they're going to be much better than last year. In fact, I've got them finishing worse. I don't really think they'll be much worse, Essendon. They've got a really tough start to the season, and I've got them being like in the bottom four or bottom 2 even after the first 8 to 10 games. I think they'll be better in the second half of the season. I said this as well in my earlier season predictions if you hadn't seen them as well. So, I've had them being bad for a bit now, and I don't see them being any good this year. Nate Caddy has certainly been talked up quite a bit, and I'm really, really excited to see how he goes in his first season. Just that new defensive structure as well, set up by Ben Mackay. It's going to be quite interesting, especially Jordan Ridley keeps on getting injured as well. And even some of their young kids, Nick Martin playing off the halfback, he's going to be really good, I reckon. Elijah Sardis, I believe that's how you say it. I can't wait to see how he goes. He looks like he's going to have a breakout year. And, there are some positives for Essendon, and they could prove me wrong and finish in the top 11 or 12, but I've got them 14th. In 13th position, a bit of a bold call, and I might get slammed for doing this. I've got the Western Bulldogs finishing in 13th. Now, I've seen people put the Bulldogs in the top 8, which is absurd. They're not a top 8 team, in my opinion. Last year, they were a top 10 team, luckily. They didn't really deserve to be, but they ended up being a top 10 team. And I personally think Bevo's time is probably over. I think the Bulldogs have got to look on and try and get ready for perhaps a rebuild, because I just don't see them performing too well this year. I mean, then again, they could come top 10. You never know. But I just don't see them coming top 10. I think there are 11 to 12 teams that are just better than them. Their defence is an interesting one. They had a few injuries in there, and Aaron Norton and Ugal Hagen together last year, they missed quite a lot of set shots, so they've got to be quite accurate, and I think their midfield as well, Bailey Smith, losing him's a huge blow. Jack McRae hasn't played any practice matches yet, so yeah, a little bit concerning for the Western Bulldogs, and I've got them in 13th. It's a bold call, a brave one, but yeah, I have them being disappointing, one of the most disappointing teams this year, and Bevo getting sacked. Now, in 12th, I've got the same team who finished 12th last year in Geelong. Now, they only finished 12th really last year because they had so many injuries. And again, it's the same this year. Cam Guthrie's injured. They've had a few other injuries heading into their practice games and the season. But yeah, I've got them 12th again. I think it'll be the Geelong will kind of be the story of the season. Inconsistent, good at GMHBA as usual, as you'd expect from Geelong, but bad away from home, and not being able to clutch up in those big games. I still think they've got one of the best forward lines in the comp, and they've added, young Sean Monaghan to that as well. So, yeah, they've got a really dangerous forward line. It's just that midfield for me that's worrying. They've tried to throw Tom Stewart in there and Max Holmes on the halfback. Chris Scott, he's kind of turning into Bevo. He's throwing players around, trying to see what could work. I think trying to cover Cam Guthrie's injury will be a big part of maybe why they missed the finals in the first half of the season. They definitely could make the finals, Geelong, but I've got them in 12th. And I think there'll be a few breakout players though for Geelong. Some of their youngsters that look really good, Tanner Bruin, Ollie Henry. So they're primed to bounce back up before they bounce all the way down, in my opinion. But lots of people have been putting them lower than me, so you never know with Geelong. In 11th, I've got St Kilda sliding 5 positions from last year. I mean, last year they sort of got lucky to finish 6th, let's be real. They were so inconsistent throughout the second half of the season, and I don't see them being much better this year. I've got them sliding, obviously. I just think there's 10 teams better than them, really. I think they'll be impressive at times this year, St Kilda, but I just don't have them getting enough wins, and even their percentage is quite low, or a lot lower than lots of people will be expecting. They've got a couple of injuries concerns as well. Their forward lines looked really dangerous, though, in their practice match against Essendon, and look, you never know. St Kilda, they definitely could make the finals, but I've got them in 11th. No real reason, really, just I think there's 10 teams better than them. Now, in 10th position, I have the Gold Coast Suns. Now, a bit of a funny story on Gold Coast in my top four in the first half of the year, and they've ended up sliding down it to 10th. They've got such an easy fixture. The AFL really wants them to make the finals. And I've said this quite a number of times already. I had them being in the finals in the first half of the year, even top four even. But somehow they've finished 10th. And they've had a shocking end to their season, really. That's what I've gone with my predictions. And look, I think they'll be interesting this year. They've got to play brave footy, under Dimmer, new coach. Again, just getting the positions right again. Dew was changing up the positions in the previous 2 years as well. And, Ben Long, who was like a defender, is now forward again. And Alex Sexton's now moved to the defence and looked absolutely sensational, mind you. But I think it'll take some time for all that to get used to. I think it'll be a learning year for Dimmer. I think they're going to play some really, really good footy, but also play some really poor footy. And look, it'll be interesting to see how they go, that's for sure. Definitely one that could make the finals with that list. Like, their list is really, really good. I think Sam Flanders is an All-Australian lock almost for me, really. That midfield looks absolutely sensational on paper, and you never know. They've got a high expectation under Dimmer as well, which might put a little bit more pressure on them. Also, they've been training quite differently to how they have been in the past, so that's also quite interesting as well. Now, in ninth position, I've moved them up from my last predictions when I said, they're definitely not going to make the finals and all that, and I've got them sliding in there, or they're going to be disappointing this year. But I've got Melbourne missing out in the finals. I've got them finishing ninth. I did originally have them 10th in my earlier season predictions, but I've switched. Oh, sorry, I couldn't speak there. I've switched them and Gold Coast around, mainly because I still think Melbourne's list is really, really good, but, that off-season stuff is just taking over everyone's opinions over Melbourne at the moment. We haven't really seen them play, though, so, we can't really say anything, but I've got them sliding. It's a bold call. It's a brave one. Lots of people have tipped Melbourne that come out of the top 8 as well. I don't think they're going to make top 4. The chances of that is very, very unlikely, in my opinion, and top 8 even is a bit of a... they definitely could make the top 8, is what I'm trying to say. They've got heaps of injuries as well to their forward line. Brayshaw, the sudden retirement as well was a bit of a shock. Joel Smith's cocaine stuff. It's just huge things going on at the Melbourne Footy Club. Feel like they've got to focus on their footy. It'll be interesting to see how they go this season. I've got them ninth. Now, my top 8 and my predictions, obviously who I've got in 8th is an absolute huge, huge, huge bold call. And, you've always got to go for a huge bold call in your predictions, your season predictions, don't you? And I've certainly tried to change my predictions up, that's for sure. And mine are quite different and quite unique. Mainly for this reason, I've got Hawthorn in the top 8. Now, I think they're going to have a fantastic year. Sam Mitchell, I rate him so much as a coach. I think their midfield is one of the most powerful and most, it's so young, so talented. One of the best in the comp. John Newcomb, I rate him so much. I rate him so highly. Even so highly that there'll be a bit of a shock to most people later on in the video in my awards, so stay tuned for that. Will Day, he's a bit injured at the moment, but I still really rate him. I think he's a really good midfielder. And that forward line as well on paper looks ridiculous. Chol, Ginnivan and Gunston added to it. Nick Watson, the young drafty, far out. In a few years, Hawthorn could be really, really dangerous, and they could be top 4, top 2, and maybe even going for another three-peat or something like that. I just think they're going to be so good. The only problem is their defence. I do think their defence is a bit of a worry, but I think if they can kick enough goals and just turn them into high-scoring scraps and high-scoring shootouts, even, I think Hawthorn could make the top 8. I know it's almost impossible, but I've tipped them to make the 8. Pretty crazy. In 7th, I have Sydney. Now, I think I had them 7th as well in my earlier season predictions, and I've got them 7th for the exact same reason. We haven't really seen them play together yet. Plus, they've got heaps of injuries to their midfield. Luke Parker, Adams, Mills. It's worrying having those many midfielders out for the first month of the season where they've got a lot of, challenging games against like Melbourne and Collingwood and all that. And I've got them 7th as well, just because I think there are 6 teams better than them. That's just my opinion. We haven't seen Grundy play together. I mean, James Jordan, far out. He looks absolutely amazing at the moment. And even Angus Sheldrick's primed for a breakout and standout season. It'll be interesting to see how their forward line goes as well without Buddy now. But I think they'll go just fine, the Swans. They'll definitely make the finals, that's for sure. Surely, right? Surely. Longmire's such a good coach as well, and their defense isn't great, but it should hold up. In 6th, I've got Port Adelaide. I've got them sliding quite a bit from last year, but I still think they'll be a decent team. Again, Port Adelaide, they'll go around, they'll get similar amount of wins. Rosie and Butters, far out, they're going to be amazingly good again. Up there in the Brownlow, both of them, that's for sure. Ollie Wines has looked really, really dangerous in that midfield. He's got that midfield rollback. Horn Francis as well. And they've added recruits to their defensive stocks over the off-season. Zerk Thatcher, Ruddigalier. They've got their ruck stocks up with Sweet and Soldo. Their forward line, Port Adelaide, their ceiling is so high. They could finish as high as 1st. They could finish as low as around 6th to 7th, in my opinion. But I've got them in 6th just because I think they'll be a little bit inconsistent, maybe struggle at times to get wins against the teams above them. And that's why I have them in 7th. 6th, my bad. And in 5th, I've got GWS. Now, I really wanted them to make the top 4. I really wanted to put them in the top 4, but I didn't. I put them in 5th. And I think that's a decent spot for them for now, because they did overachieve a little bit last year, but far out. Their ceiling again, they could definitely make a prelim again. That fury with the Craig McRae, copycat season, former Richmond assistant coach, both of them, and then Collingwood lose their first season under Craig McRae by a point in a prelim. The Giants do the same under Adam Kingsley. Then last year we won the premiership. What are GWS going to do this year? Well, they could certainly win a premiership. They're going to be really, really good this year. There is a pattern building. And their team, they just play so similarly to us, and they've got forward options. We thought, oh my God, they've lost Bobby Hill, they've lost Taranto, they've lost Hopper. Who else did they lose? They almost lost Himmelberg. We thought the Giants were out and gone, but they made a prelim, and they were 1 point off a grand final. 2, really, technically. Absolutely amazing what Adam Kingsley has done. It's actually absolutely so underrated. It's arguably better than Craig McRae with that list of his that he had. Wow. I still can't believe how good it is. Their midfield, like Tom Green, I could go on about the Giants all day, really, but I'll stop now. I think they'll come 5th. In 4th, I've got Adelaide. Now, obviously, I've really, hyped up the Giants and all that, but I still think Adelaide are definitely the one to watch in 2024. Obviously, last year they got kind of robbed and, they absolutely 100% got robbed, and the AFL knows that. That's why they gave them, to sweeten up the bitter sour loss. They've given them an easier fixture this year, and they are going to be really, really good at the Adelaide Oval, in my opinion. I had them undefeated in my bold call video, so yeah, I've got them undefeated at the Adelaide Oval. They're going to be really, really good this year. Love their forward line. I think it's the best in the comp, in my opinion. I think their midfield is just getting better and better. More games they get into those youngsters, McHenry, Saligo, the better. Their defence isn't great, and that could be the thing that costs them from making top 4. But I've got them in 4th, so obviously maybe it won't. Now in third, I've got Carlton, and Carlton, look, they'll just be up there again this year, you'd think. I mean, just look at their list on paper. I mean, it's so simple. Their forward line, Curnow, carries them. Well, not carries them, but like, he's just so classy, so good. And, their forward line on paper doesn't look amazing, but it just always seems to perform with Curnow in it. Their midfield is absolutely elite. Their defence, now the defence can be a bit inconsistent, but, there was really, really good, like Wiedering and Newman and all them, and Sard and not Plowman, Kemp and all them. In their little run last year. And I think Carlton will be really, really good again this year, up there competing. I've got them in third. They'll be really, really impressive. Their ceiling is, making a grand final, really, but they could finish as low as seventh, really. That's how crazy this season is going to be, because I personally think the top 7 teams, in my opinion, all have the ceiling of making a grand final, but all could finish 7th to 8th and maybe even miss finals, who knows. So it's going to be a pretty crazy year, that's for sure. A fun one, that's for sure. Very, very enjoyable, I reckon. And in second, I've got Collingwood. Now, I didn't want to be, boring, lame and biased and make us come first. So I've tipped us to come second. I don't think we'll get the minor premiership this year, but I still think we'll be bloody unbelievable again. I don't think we'll actually be as good as last year, but yeah, still, what Craig McRae's done to this football club, the culture and everything, it's just incredible. You ask what your favourite thing about the football club is to a Collingwood player, they'll often say the culture, just the group in general, going out there and playing, their will to win. It's just incredible how good and how much they love playing for this club. And, I think Nick Dacos is going to be right up there again. And I think Isaac Quainer, I've already hyped his off-season up quite a bit. I think he'll be All-Australian, that's for sure. Darcy Moore again, probably best captain. Yeah, I can't wait to see what Lachie Schultz does as well in our new forward line. And Bobby Hill, in my opinion, heading into this year, I think he'll probably be best small forward in the comp. Yeah, I mean, the Dan McStay loss, I'm starting to realise it is pretty big, but it does give opportunity to, Reef McInnes and Ash Johnson. So I'm excited for them as well. And Pat Lipinski was absolutely incredible in the practice games as well, and in the match sim. And the Bendigo versus Ballarat, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I think we'll come second this season, not quite first, unfortunately. Because I think the team that has to come first is the team that has a bloody fortress in the Brisbane Lions up at the Gabba. It's incredible, isn't it, how good they've become up there. And even away, I think they'll be pretty good away this year as well. Yeah, finally, pull off a minor premiership under Chris Fagan. Exciting times. I mean, do I really have to go on about Brisbane? Their forward line, it's great. It's not as good as last year, in my opinion. Their midfield is probably better. Lachie Neale, McCluggage has been hyped up heaps. Kane Coleman in defence as well. Yeah, can't wait to watch Brisbane this year. They're going to be so great to watch. Yeah, definitely a team just like Collingwood who have got their game plans copycatted or copied and analysed a lot by professionals and even other teams now, because it is, the new era type game plan, isn't it? That fast footy, and Brisbane's just get it in the forward line and just kick as many goals as possible. It's absolutely superb. I think they will be minor premiers for 2024. Now, for the awards, I'll do them before my premiership call. I'll do that at the end of the video. My awards. Now, the Brownlow, I wanted to spice things up, and boy have I. I've gone with Jai Newcomb from Hawthorn. In second, I've got Tom Green. Third, Nick Dacos. Fourth, Sam Walsh. And 5, Zach Butters. I personally think those 5, plus maybe Errol Goulden and Bontempelli, are probably the 7 standouts for me to win it. And I just wanted to be, I just wanted to be different and out there and go with Newcomb. I really, really rate him. Do I think he'll actually win the Brownlow? Probably not, but I really want him to, and it'd be really, really cool just to be one of those YouTubers, to be different, because there are 6 really, really good players that I think should win it. And if one of them doesn't, then who's it going to be? Newcombe, probably. So I've gone with that. I don't know. Look, let's hope that happens. My Coleman medal prediction in first, it's another Hawthorn player. I've hyped them up so much in this video. It's Mitch Lewis. And by the way, I did lock that in before you, Cat. He bloody got there first, the bastard. But anyways, second, Fogarty from the Crows. Third, I've got Nick Larkey. Fourth, Curnow. Charlie Curnow, that is, obviously from Carlton. And fifth, Oscar Allen. I think Larkey, Curnow, and Allen, you know, those three, I mean, let's be real, they're probably going to be top three if they don't get injured or something. But I wanted to throw in a couple of names up there. Mitch Lewis, you know, the last 2 seasons have been amazing for him. He hasn't even played every single game. He's played like a lot less than maybe half games for Hawthorn in the last 2 years, and he's still kicked so many goals. And I think, you know, if you do the math and you add it up, if he plays every single game this year, he'll be top 5. So, and he's probably the most unique one you could go on with. And bloody UCAT beat me to it, and I'm so pissed about that. But anyways, Darcy Fogarty as well. I wanted to make it extra spicy because I know UCAT got there first and it's going to look like I copied him, you know. So Darcy Fogarty, I've got him in second. I rate him so much. He's such a good kick of the ball. And, you know, if they maybe start targeting him a little bit more than Tex Walker this season, let's hope, fingers crossed, that he can come second. My rising star, again, I did want to go boring because boring predictions, you know, it's just not entertaining or as entertaining. So, yeah, I've gone with a bold one again for the rising star. George Wardlaw. Is it really that bold, though? Mathematically, no. I mean, like, no one's really done it, but mathematically, it's not bold at all. This kid only played 8 games last year, which means he's eligible. And he's going to be crazy, crazy good this year. And I might as well mention now. In second, I've done a top 5 for my rising star as well. Second, Harley Reid. Third, Colby McKercher. Fourth, Daniel Curtin. And 5, Elijah Sardis from Essendon. So he's another one in his second season that I think will be up there. George Wardlaw, he's going to be absolutely amazing this year. I mean, let's be real. I mean, if it's not him or Colby McKercher winning it from North, then it's probably going to be Harley Reid. But Sam Darcy as well from the Bulldogs was another one that I was considering for my top 5 as well there. Now, best trade of the season, or best recruit, if you want to call it that. I've gone with Mabior Chol. I personally think him and Mitch Lewis are going to be crazy good this year for the Hawks. And I've hyped up the Hawks so bloody much in this video, and if they fail, I'm going to look like a bloody muppet. A bloody goose, that's for sure. Tipping Mabior Chol to win the best recruit of the year. I mean, I tipped him to win the Coleman last year, and look how funny that was. So, hopefully he can do it. Hopefully. The AFL MVP. Now, this seems to be getting bigger and bigger each year. And again, I didn't really want to pick the same person this year because, you know, mathematically, the person who wins the Brownlow, right, should probably be the favourite to win the AFL MVP. That's why they do the AFL MVP first, because it is quite different. Because I believe the Brownlow is the umpires. The AFL MVP is like the coaches and all that or whatever. I'm not 100% sure. But I wanted to go different. I didn't want to go John Newcombe to win 2 awards. So I've gone with Sam Walsh from the Carlton Football Club to win the AFL MVP. I've got Newcombe in there in second. I've got Nick Dacos in at third. Tom Green 4th and Butters 5th. It doesn't really matter the order. I just think that Sam Walsh, him and Newcombe, they're going to be fantastic this year. Walsh, he was the most valuable player in the final series, and I think he's just so valuable to what Carlton have to offer. And I think, it's already been proved heaps that the coaches should probably tip him and, vote for him a lot. Now, I wanted to do All-Australian Smokies as well, even though I already did like an All-Australian video. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. But I did All-Australian Smokies as well, because why not? At this point, why not? Hayden Young. I personally think he should make the All-Australian in the midfield. I mean, he's a midfielder, but I think they'll put him on the half-back or something. Sam Flanders, Kieran Briggs, Darcy Fogarty. You know, those 4 I've all got in my All-Australian. And I've also put one on the end there that I think could make All-Australian, but I haven't put in my All-Australian team, and that's Nick Martin. He could have made it last year. He was like a nominee. He didn't quite do it. He could this year, though. You never know. And why not? I've done a Goal of the Year and Mark of the Year as well. I know I've done absolutely bloody every award. But at this point, why not? Goal of the Year, Bobby Hill. I think he's going to be so good this year. Maybe a bit biased going with a Goal of the Year tip there. And I'm going to be biased again with Mark of the Year. I'm going to go Jeremy Howe. Because why not? He goes for the high-flying marks every week. Mathematically, to me, it makes the most sense. So, yeah, that is exactly why I've gone with him to win Mark of the Year. It's already been a very, very, very long video. And I do apologise for maybe rambling on for a little bit. But if you have made it up to this point, could you please like and subscribe? And, help the channel grow. And, now I'll go straight into my premiership predictions, which is probably what you guys have been waiting for. My grand final, I'm going to go with a Carlton versus Collingwood grand final. I think it will be a pretty crazy one. Why not? Carlton versus Collingwood, you know, the 2 biggest teams basically in the AFL. It's going to be absolutely crazy scenes. It's going to make 2024 even more memorable for the AFL season. It's going to be pretty crazy. And yes, I'm going to be biased and tip my team to go back-to-back. Fingers crossed. Hopefully a bit of a bold call. And, why not? Might as well say a Norm Smith prediction as well. Nick Dacos. I mean, I haven't tipped him to win an award, and he probably should. So he can win the Norm Smith. And, Pies go back-to-back. Going to be absolutely amazing this year, 2024, on the channel. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed my season predictions, and I'll see you guys very, very, very soon for my round 0 tips. Unbelievable, isn't it, that the AFL starts, this week. It's incredible, really. But hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys then.